Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mainz and Dutts. I'm your host Mainz, and my colleague, trying to work out if DC can make a worse film next time, it's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil? I'm
very, very well. Excellent show you did last week. Your best, I feel.
Thanks. I did 2 minutes at the start and 2 minutes at the end. That's as good as I get. On that, Dutton, we should say to the listeners, please get involved in the DraftKings Fantasy Premier League. Because it's American football, I got really confused by saying fantasy footy, but then it's not fantasy footy because we talk about fantasy footy and that's the other footy. So I didn't want to call it soccer because I'm not American. So I'm going to call it Fantasy Premier League now. So you want to do Fantasy Premier League, you register, you can win up to £40,000 in the first week. You just choose 8 players and you're on your way. I
say, you love football, you love money, put your hands together.
You've got it sorted, don't you? The link is in our at waxing_lyrical profile, and we'll also post it out with this podcast later on. Obviously, it won't be later on for you because you've got the podcast, so it will have already happened.
Yeah. Speaking of films, you mentioned Suicide Squad. I actually watched Star Trek on Friday.
You went with your dad, didn't you? I felt a bit lost that he didn't invite me, but anyway.
Yeah, it was a mandate with my dad.
I didn't even know your dad was a Trekker.
Well, my dad is. I'm going to avoid that one as it goes perilously close to the outside edge. My dad is the reason I started watching Star Trek, and it was a program I saw him watching one Tuesday night on BBC Two at about 6:10 when I was about 4 or 5. So yeah, I mean he's not as big into. He's not as colossal a geek as I am, but he loves his Star Trek. It was good. It was it felt like a Star Trek film. I enjoyed it. It wasn't a remake. Good? It was very good. They managed to capture a lot of the essence of the original series in that it wasn't the ship isn't the most important thing. It's the crew, and they split off the characters and they had throwing them against each other, and it was good. Bones is the best character of these 3 films. I think Carl Urban is absolutely superb.
Is this the one Peg wrote?
Yes.
Did Peg direct?
And you can tell
JJ Lensflare.
No, it was Justin Lin, and as a result, there was no Lensflare.
Oh wow! Well, Mr. Esposti will probably watch it then. And speaking of Mr. Esposti, as you know, this week this episode is an AFC East special. So Dutton, as we did the NFC East and we had 2 fanboys on, me and you, we thought, let's get a New England Patriots fanboy because there isn't many of them around. We tried to call Ben Affleck. We tried to call Matt Damon. Bill Simmons told me to F off. So we got the 4th biggest fanboy in New England Patriots lore, and that is Mr. Tony Esposti.
Well, we tried.
I went for Affleck, but I did say that I wanted him to have had 12 Sam Adams before he came on the show. He declined that offer.
And to stop working for DC.
I'm hoping, for the love of God, that they're going to allow him some kind of creative control over the films that he does, and hopefully they will be better. They can't be any worse.
What evidence have we got that Ben Affleck knows how to make a good film?
Argo.
And he did write Good Will Hunting as well.
There's 2 there that we got to say, okay, Ben, we give it to you. We won't mention that he was in Daredevil.
No, let's not.
So let's just get on with the show and move straight along with our AFC East preview. First team first, Dutton. Let's go alphabetical order. Let's go then Buffalo Bills. Training camp et al. Is not going well for the Bills. Reggie Ragland's out. Shaq Lawson's out. I think their 3rd round draft pick's also out. The question is, Dutton, how short is the Ryan leash in Buffalo?
I think it's incredibly short. He's, his last few years as a head coach basically can be, emboldened by the phrase, all meth and no trousers, in the sense that he's all bluster but doesn't actually deliver anything. And they do say in show business, once you start doing albums with your sibling, your career's on the downward. Well, if you're going to bring the fat one in, then you better deliver.
The team seems to be much like his team in New York. Somehow, by twist of fate, he's only been there a year. Incredibly top heavy, as in you've got these players who quote unquote star names, and then you've just got no underneath. So if these players get injured, like when you draft players, like they drafted Raglan and drafted Shaq Lawson, you don't want to be in a position where you're having to draft starters. You want to draft players who will be starters, but you don't want them to be like, they're definitely going to play. This is going to be... Because that means you're not a very good football team or a very well-run franchise. I think if you listen to around the NFL, they used the Bengals as an example. They've lost their first-round draft pick, the cornerback, but that's no big... Not necessarily... It's a big deal because you want them to play, but it's not a massive deal because you've still got 3 or 4 other cornerbacks who can play. Reggie Ragland's out. You have to call Brandon Spikes off the street, who hasn't played in over a year, to come into your team. Who's replacing Shaq Lawson? No one.
I mean, it was the height of footballing hubris that Teflon Doug Whaley did say that they'll have 3 rookie starters off the bus in defence. Well, you're an idiot, because we've seen the Jets under Ryan and anything that the other one has done. Rookies don't contribute straight away. So to get this idea that they're just going to waltz in and be productive straight away, the footballing gods were always going to strike you down. And it's as you say, you don't draft for need. You draft to develop and improve. They drafted for need, and it's bit them on the arse. If they really thought Brandon Spikes was that good, they wouldn't have drafted Ragland, because they wouldn't have needed to. They'd have got this 2-down thumper to play. But it's as you say, I mean, the other area they've got is, if Tyrod Taylor gets injured, they go in the tank. It is as simple as that. And I'm not saying he's like the most valuable player, the most valuable player in the NFL, because bear in mind, he has only started for 1 season and didn't play the whole time. But what they do with his skill set allows LaShawn McCoy to be productive. It allows them to use Sammy Watkins. You take his mobility away and put EJ Manuel back there, I'm teeing off. I'll bring pressure on every single play, because you'll do something stupid, EJ, and I will be there to capitalise.
Over-under from Vegas, Dutton, is 8 road games at the Ravens, the Rams, the Seahawks, the Bengals, and the Raiders. Ooh. Home games against the Cards, the 49ers, the Jags, the Steelers, and the Browns. Numbers 8, Dutton. Don't forget, also play New England twice. I'm
going to say under. I just have an underwhelming sense of this team. I mean, I am going to be generally, spoiler alert before, if you were waiting for me to pick which of these teams is going to knock the Patriots off the perch, it isn't coming. So I'm just particularly down on them. I just think, they're an okay team. The defense should be their strength. They should be able to lean on a run game, but they've got LaShawn McCoy, who can't stay 100% healthy. They've got Fat Carlos, and they've got DWI Williams as well. So if McCoy goes down and they have to rely on Mike Gillespie or whatever his bleeding name is, I'm sorry, they're in trouble.
So before I give you my thoughts, Dutton, that DWI Williams, did you steal that from someone? Because if you didn't, you should go straight to the copyright office and get that copyrighted.
That is mine.
Okay, you can keep that. You need to put on Twitter that you've taken this name, and anyone uses it has to give you money. In terms of 8, I'm looking. You're going to lose at Seattle. You're going to lose in Cincinnati. You're going to lose in Oakland. You're going to lose to the Cards. You're going to lose to the Steelers. There's 5. You're going to lose to the Patriots twice. There's 7. And that's not even thinking about other games. It's a 6-10 team, 7-9. The question is that, do people think this is a 10-6 team? And when I say people, I mean ownership, head coach, GM. If they do, I think they're sorely mistaken. And that for me is a Ryan family looking for a new job, probably with CBS.
Mm-hmm. I'll go with that.
Buffalo Bills, Dutton, who's the fantasy stud?
The fantasy stud, and especially at his current ADP, is something of a steal. I've already alluded to him. It's Tyrod Taylor. I mean, you know me, I'm never ever going to tell you to take a quarterback early. He's going as late as the 12th round in some drafts, which when you factor in that, his rushing production, I mean, in most leagues, it's 4 points for a passing touchdown. Well, Tyrod Taylor is going to get you 40 yards on the ground, so any touchdowns he throws, add 1 on. So I think as long as he's used properly and as long as he's running, well, that tends to be a quarterback that Greg Roman likes to use. We've seen he can be productive, and he's playing, this is walk year time for Tyrod, so as long as he is allowed to play his game, I like him, especially at his current ADP.
Who's the fantasy dud, Dutton?
Robert Woods. I mean, we all love people like Bobby Woods. They're going to be around. They're going to be reliable. He's essentially like an old Volvo. We know what we're going to get from him. It's not going to be spectacular. It's not going to be flashy. And ultimately, you don't win fantasy championships with Volvos. So thanks anyway, Bobby. It's just not in Greg Roman's DNA to feature the second wide receiver too often. In his last 5 years, they've got an average of 15% of the total team targets. That's not an awful lot. If Sammy Watkins goes down, they go even more run heavy, I think, and they're not just going to say they're going to fill the air with footballs just if they haven't got Sammy Watkins. So, sorry, Bobby, you're another USC receiver that we really don't need to pay too much attention to.
Buffalo Bills, Vegas says 8, me and Dutton say no way, both under. I'm probably thinking that the Ryans are looking for a new job, we think on TV. Fantasy stud is Tyrod Taylor, definitely due to the rushing yards, and you can get him really low in drafts. Fancy dud is Robert Woods, just because Dutton doesn't like USC. Dutton, next team, everybody's favourite celebrity owner team, that is the Miami Dolphins. New coach this year, Adam Gase, seen with such quarterbacks as Peyton Manning and Jay Cutler. The question I have for you is, can he do with Ryan Tannehill what he's already done with Jay Cutler and Peyton Manning?
Well, if he's going to do with Ryan Tannehill what he's done with Jay Cutler, the question then becomes is that the type of quarterback the Miami Dolphins want to be on the hook to for such a lot of money? Because let's be honest, Cutler was efficient last year. Doesn't mean he was good. He didn't. He still threw off the back foot to Alshon Jeffrey or Josh Bellamy or whoever was actually healthy in that receiving core. He didn't turn Jay Cutler into a superstar. He just basically made sure that Jay Cutler was not the reason Chicago lost games. If that's what you're going to turn Ryan Tannehill into, I think you can probably get that cheaper somewhere else. Ultimately, he has, and this is one of the few coaches. Everyone always says, it's not a question of what offensive coordinator it was. They're running the Peyton Manning offense. Peyton Manning is one of the first people who'll tell you that Adam Gase really, really had a big say, especially in that 2013 season where he set, all those records. So if Peyton Manning thinks he's a good offensive mind, then you'd think he should be able to do something. This is another team, though, that last year we thought was brimming with talent. Now, there's not been a huge amount of turnover, but I don't have the same feelings. They've replaced Lamar Miller with, they're basically done a swap deal for Lamar Miller and Arian Foster, who is 30 years old, has a history of soft tissue injuries, and is coming off a blown Achilles. Well, that's not easy to come back to at age 30. And they swapped out Olivia Vernon, who got overpaid, let's not beat around the bush here, and brought in Mario Williams, who, as we know, not exactly a good teammate. So I don't see how you can say the team has got dramatically better with those additions.
I think when you look at the Adam Gase thing, I just think in the years he was with Manning and Cutler, let's say they were more efficient and say 15% better than they were the years when he weren't with them. So, Manning went from amazing to unbelievable and record-breaking, and Cutler went from to actually, I could see him being a quarterback who I could actually not try and kill myself when I'm watching him as my team. Ryan Tannehill has shown flashes of talent. If Gase can do that same kind of thing, does that make him a quarterback who you're willing to spend that money you've already spent on? I think if Gase can't get Tannehill to work, then you need to cut bait and get someone else. I think that's how I would describe it. Miami's Miami in terms of the rest of the roster. They were always going to sign Arian Foster. That was nailed on. Look, there's a Shani thing. It may be old, but look at Shani. Let's go grab it. That's how it's going to work. I look at this team and I think, I'm not too sure. And that gets us onto the Vegas number, which is 7. Road games against Seattle, Cincinnati, the Chargers, the Rams and the Ravens. Home games against the Browns, the Titans, the Steelers, the 49ers and the Cardinals. Let's just say for the record, that Steelers game is an away game. Because Miami will be absolutely full of Steelers fans. So in theory, there's an additional away game. Add into the additional away game, the 2 away games they play against New England every year. 7 is the number done.
This is a 6-win team. I generally think it is. it's because, there's so many question marks. As I say, are they going to try and run the ball? Are they going to be able to run the ball with Foster? Are they just going to have to pass the ball an awful lot? Is Jordan Cameron going to be viable? I think Gase has got his work cut out on making this offense click, because there's an awful lot of parts that don't seem to fit. Like this, according to this is what Gase said to the Miami Herald today. Now, there's the way that you can put a positive slant or a negative slant on anything. You know what I'm like. I'm going to look for the negative. So, talking about Jarvis Landry. One day I tried to script every play to where he wasn't in the progression, and somehow the ball gets to him. The guy's like a magnet. How do you read that? You tell me how you read that.
Do you tell you how you read it? So you read that
no,
as... Adam Gase is trying to tell you that Jarvis Landry's a playmaker, right? And the ball goes to him and he gets balls. What do you read? And I also read into that.
Ryan Tannehill hasn't got a clue how to throw to anyone else and is constantly looking to check down to his slot receiver, who's only about 6 yards away from him.
It also proves that it also could be read that Jarvis Landry pays no attention to the playbook whatsoever, and him and Ryan Tannehill are playing schoolboy American football.
Yeah, we always talk about how Jay Cutler used to lock in on Brandon Marshall. Yeah, that was fine. He was shooting 25 yards down the field. He wasn't checking down to Jarvis Landry. So that could be a problem.
It's an issue, Dalton. It's an issue. So I'm with you. It's 5 or 6 win team for me. We're going to get on to New England in a minute, but this is why New England win this division. It's not just because they're really good, which by the way they are. They also have really not very good teams in their division. And Miami, I think it's a good season for Gase, because you get that free year, don't you? You get to evaluate, you get to look at the talent, you get to see, I'm not happy with him, and him. And if you get 5 or 6, maybe you get a top 5 draft pick, or maybe you pick a quarterback. If you don't like Tannehill, if he hasn't worked out. Dutton, Miami Dolphins fantasy stud.
Well, let's assume that if we're playing in PPR, I think we've just decided who it's going to be, because we know that Tannehill won't go with anyone else. It's Jarvis Landry. He has 194 catches in his first 2 years in the NFL. That's not bad, but again, let's take it with a pinch of salt. Most of them are essentially handoffs. He doesn't score a great number of touchdowns, and it's very hard to run your offense through the slot receiver. But I don't have a lot of faith in this offense as a whole. Devontae Parker could score a lot of touchdowns. I expect he'll score a lot more touchdowns than Landry. He's 6'3". He's a red zone presence. Arian Foster might well score a lot more receiving touchdowns than Landry. He's a good running back. He's a good receiver out of the backfield. But I just think in terms of week in, week out, high floor, low ceiling, it's going to be Jarvis Landry.
Excellent. So Miami Dolphins, over under 7 from Vegas. We both think under. We're not convinced. Not convinced at all.
Are we not talking about the duds? Or are we just saying the whole bleeding squad?
Oh God, yes. Go on. Yeah, fancy Dutton. Sorry.
Jay Ajayi. I think the Dolphins have gone out of their way and have been. You have to applaud the commitment to show that they don't want him. He is not part of this coaching staff's thinking. Coming in and saying he's been brilliant, he's been a rock, he can be the pillar, and then try and sign CJ Anderson, try and sign Chris Johnson, bring in Arian Foster. You don't want Jay Ajayi. Just come out and say it. Also come out with this crap that he's not a very good receiver. He caught 50 passes in 2014 in college. Of course he's a good receiver. That's ludicrous to say. Whether they have injury concerns and then go and sign Foster, I don't know. But I just think, given the amount of uncertainty, he's really not tenable for me. Where is he? I mean, he's going running back 28, which is, high end running back 3, could sneak into running back 2. But I think he needs Foster literally to land on IR to get an awful lot of playing time. I mean, they're still giving snaps to Isaiah Peed, for God's sake.
Let's do it this time, Dutton. The Miami Dolphins. Las Vegas says 7, me and Dutton say under. We're not convinced by the team. We don't think they're very good. Fancy stud, as Dutton said, Jarvis Landry, mainly due to the fact if it's a PPR league, Ryan Tannehill's going to throw at him 25 times a game. Fancy dud is Jay Ajayi. That just shows that we just don't think that all UK players are going to be awesome. We're not convinced. we're not necessarily not convinced by Jay Giles' ability, more than how he's going to be used in the offense, and whether he'll be fit or not.
I think that's fair.
So next team is everybody's favourite team to hate, which is the New England Patriots. I guess it's easy to just go, they're going to win 13 games or blah blah blah. I guess my question to you is, what is the worst case scenario for the Pats?
10-6 in the division title.
So let's play it down. So we say, okay, they're going to lose 1-3 first few games, lose a couple more when Brady's back, but they're still 10-6. There's no way they don't win 10 games.
No way at all. I'm sick and tired of trying to be the precursor to doom for the New England Patriots under Bill Belichick. So this year I'm just not bothering. It's not going to fall off this year. Not in this division, not against the competition they've got. They're going to be fine.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? The worst case scenario, I'm with you. You run those simulation leagues 1,000 times, 850, 900 times, they're still going to win a division, regardless of what the situation throws at them. And that's because they got the best coach. And for 12 games, they'll have the best quarterback. We have no idea what Jimmy Garoppolo does. But even if they go 1-3, even if they go 0-4, I'm not convinced by the rest of the division around them is going to be able to take any kind of advantage of it whatsoever. They've still got Gronk. They've still got Edelman. Dion Lewis is probably back as well. The defence looks a lot better. You just think, they're going to win a load of games because that's what they do. They win a load of games.
If any team has shown us that they can, it always comes back to this. They haven't got Brady for 4 games. 2008, 10-6, Matt Castle.
Correct, exactly. And if you didn't see it, go back. And then you think, Matt Castle, that guy was rubbish. Yeah, he was rubbish. Don't believe you me and Dutton were in email conversations where we were saying, do you trade Brady and keep Castle? That actually happened.
We said this.
That actually happened. It's unbelievable, but it did happen. Dutton, Vegas are with you in the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario for them is they're giving you an over-under of 10.5. Road games against the Cards, the Browns, the Steelers, the 49ers and the Broncos. It should be noted that the Cards is the only road game they have without Tom Brady. Home games against the Texans, the Bengals, the Seahawks, the Rams and the Ravens. 10.5 done.
Over.
Easily, you're saying, I know we did worst case scenario, you're saying that they're 12-14.
If you look at the season as 4 quarters, the aim is to go 3-1 in all 4 of those quarters. We've already said they're going to start 3-1 and then they get Tommy Boy back. I don't think Tom Brady comes in and makes this team worse. So let's be honest, this is going to be one of the final 4 teams in the AFC. So I don't see this division, and I certainly don't see that home slate tripping them up.
I'm with you, Dutton. I look at the home slate and you think they're going to beat the Texans. They'll beat one of the Bengals and the Seahawks, even if they lose to one of the other ones. And Rams and Ravens. The Ravens have had the thing over them, but I can't see it this year. They'll beat the Browns. They'll beat the 49ers. The Broncos, who's playing quarterback, I have no idea. That's got a revenge game written all over it. And as we said, and played Buffalo twice, Miami twice, and the Jets twice. 4-2 again. Do you know 4-2, 5-1? Teams going minimum 11 wins, probably 12. As you said, they're one of the best 4 teams in the AFC East, probably one of the best 4 teams in the NFL. Yeah,
and until otherwise, we may as well just next year we won't even bother talking about them.
Dalton, tell me about Rob Gronkowski as the fantasy stud.
Well, Rob Gronkowski is basically his current ADP. He's going at the back end of the first round. Now, if you're going to try and go for the 0 running back approach, and you are picking between 8 and 12 in the first round, the chances are the stud wide receivers have gone. Obviously Beckham, Julio, and Antonio Brown have gone. So then you think maybe, could Des Bryant drop to me? What about Allen Robinson? Or maybe DeAndre Hopkins? I've seen AJ Green drop down to 9 and drop down to 10 in some leagues. Please, can I draft in your league? Gronk basically needs to be treated as a wide receiver option there in the first round, top of the second maybe. You know what his floor is? It's going to be 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns. They've brought in Martellus Bennett. For competition? No. For comparison, for company, for basically to say to the defense, just try and stop us. Even if Bennett does get a substantial fantasy workload himself, in 2011, Gronk was tight end 1 in fantasy. Tight end 4 is a guy who then went and started killing people. So I think they can coexist perfectly well if Bennett decides to break out. There's no reason not to trust Rob Gronkowski.
Let's just think that Dutton thinks that the base of a Rob Gronkowski season is 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns. Wow. Fantasy dud on the Patriots, Dutton.
Fantasy dud. It's not so much. This isn't. I'm quite carping in my criticisms of other players because I generally do think they're terrible or bad fits. But this one is Malcolm Mitchell. He's a wide receiver, I believe, from Georgia. By all accounts, he's had some good days at camp. He's had some meh days, and then he's a little bit inconsistent. They obviously have had problems at wide receiver. Danny Amendola is, made of, puppy dog licks and fairy kisses, and is just as likely to break down at any moment as possible. Julian Edelman is coming off a twice surgically repaired foot and did hurt himself in camp on Tuesday as we record this. Aaron Dobson, I love the preseason talking about Aaron Dobson. Chris 7-11 Hogan has been playing quite well. So you think, they lost Brandon LaFell. They're not overly blessed with outstanding wide receiver talent. Malcolm Mitchell, if he could have a strong camp and a strong preseason, could get a few snaps, could work himself into the rotation, but history isn't on his side. No rookie wide receiver has caught more than 43 passes in the first season in the Patriots offense since Belichick took over. So he would have to book some serious trends. So he's not a bad player, certainly one to look out for in the future. I just don't think 2016's his year.
New England Patriots, 10.5. You know what? Me and Dutton think that's, it's always over. It's over until proven otherwise.
It's over till it's over.
Exactly. Fantasy studs. It's obvious. It's Rob Gronkowski. As I said, Dutton thinks the floor is 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns. Fantasy dud is Malcolm Mitchell. And most of the New England Patriots wide receivers, to be fair, not against Mitchell. He's a rookie wide receiver, and as Dutton said, the stats back up that that's not going to be somewhere where you can actually make any hay in a Belichick offense. Dutton, but you know what? Why are we listening to us talk about the Patriots? We have a fanboy who's a close friend of ours, so let's quickly call him up, get him on for 5 minutes and see what he thinks. And joining us on the phone from an undisclosed location in Newcastle, I've just given it away, is Mr. Tony Esposti. Mr. Esposti, how are we?
I'm good.
We could have got you on to talk Star Trek and Suicide Squad like we have in the past, but I can't be bothered listening to rants about lens flares and crap acting. So as you're the associate Patriots fanboy of the UK, as we said, we tried to get Affleck, Damon and Bill Simmons on the show, but they've declined. We're just interested in your thoughts. We've just gone through the New England Patriots, and we both, shockingly enough, picked the over, but we have picked them to lose week 1. So as the king of the fanboys, I want you to explain to the waxing lyrical public how you think the Patriots are going to beat the Cards in week 1.
How many weeks have we got until week 1?
4 or 5? 6.
6 weeks to get Garoppolo up to speed, and you throw into Gronk and Bennett with Tyrann Mathieu still being not fully fit. I'm going to say that Belichick outschemes Arians.
See, this is why you get fanboys on the show, because he thinks stupid things like the Patriots without Tom Brady are going to go into Arizona and win games. All serious though, we're saying this team is a 12-win team and probably going to get to the AFC Championship game. Is that the minimum requirement for you as a Patriots fan?
Anything less than that has to be seen as a bad season. If you're a constant challenge or constantly challenging for the Super Bowl, then you need to continue to keep getting up to that level. Even without the first round pick again, then we still look like we've got enough talent to get to there, especially with the backward step the Broncos seem to be taking in naming 2 quarterbacks, but as their number ones. But yeah, so championship game, Super Bowl or bust, isn't it? Every time.
I mean, it must be, obviously disappointing to you, Tony, that every season you don't have the anticipation or the excitement of wondering if there'll be a playoff run. You know, you must feel very let down by this.
I support Cardiff Blues in rugby. I get enough disappointment from rugby. I'm happy to take the joy from American football.
I think that's a fair comment. So before we go, before we let you go, quick question: we got the Bills, the Dolphins, the Jets. Question is, which team do you hate most? And second question is, which team's going to finish bottom of the division?
Jets. I just hate everything about them. I even hate the colour green they wear. And I think the Dolphins, just because they haven't got a quarterback. Even the Bills have got a better quarterback than the Dolphins now, and they've got Tyrod Taylor. Well,
so it's been, as always, a pleasure to speak to you. I know you're busy trying to find out how many Greg's sausage rolls can the new computer system deal with. So we're going to let you go.
I'm watching Star Trek TNG. That's all.
What episode?
Heart of Glory.
No, don't be that guy who does that naming it. It's the one with, everyone knows that.
First appearance of the Klingons in the Next Generation.
It is indeed.
Oh my God, Trekkers are being overtaken by Trekkers. If you want to follow Tony, follow him at Big T8409. Let's not try and understand the numbers, they're just there. Tony, thank you for your time as always, and we'll speak to you soon.
My pleasure, nice to speak to you all.
Cheers, Tony.
Ta-da, boys.
Well done, that was Tony, the Patriots fanboy there. We'll let him get on with watching Star Trek Next Generation, not that he hasn't seen it 47 times before. And let's quickly move on to everybody's favourite New York team in green, the New York Football Jets. The question I have for you on the New York Jets, Dutton, is, can the offence be better than last year?
Better would be a push. I think it'd still be as potent. A lot of people made the point that Ryan Fitzpatrick was assisted last year because he had Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker. The flip side of that is that those two actually had career years in terms of yards per attempt and I think touchdowns. I want to say, apart from Decker, touchdowns for Marshall. These people benefited from having Fitzpatrick as much as Fitzpatrick benefited from having them. They had Chris Ivory, who obviously they knew what he was going to do. He was ground and pound. He's gone. They've brought in Matt Forte, who's probably one of the most underrated players in the NFL the last 10, 15 years. But you question how much has he got left. So the offense could still put up points. I have no doubt about that. I just don't think they'll be, it's not going to be, that's what they did for a starter. Here's the main course. No, they're going to be fairly similar to what they were.
I think people look at it and just think, the issue I've got of will they be better is really and truly about Ryan Fitzpatrick. Ryan Fitzpatrick was excellent last year if we take the last game out. I'm sure New York Jets fans can't. However, that last game was more the Ryan Fitzpatrick that we've seen in the past. So do we expect him to stay at the same level he was last year? Probably not. So that means I don't think the offense will be better. Does it help that you've got Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker? Absolutely. Does Matt Forte help in a passing game? Oh, you better believe it. But I'm just not sure they're going to be better than last year on offense. I think there's a chance they'll still be good, and I like Marshall in a fancy team. Wow, I'll just give a bit of fancy advice there. I should stay in my lane. Vegas have the Jets at 7.5 done. Road games against the Chiefs, the Steelers, the Cards, the Browns, and the 49ers. Home games against the Bengals, the Seahawks, the Ravens, the Rams, and the Indianapolis Colts. 7.5 done.
I'm going to take the over. I think this is a very well-coached team. I think that Chan Gailey is a very, very underrated offensive coordinator. Todd Bowles is a great coach. He's unfortunately going to be one of those, the one that got away, maybe. He was brought in as the Eagles' defensive coordinator in Andy Reid's last year. Somehow the defense got worse under him, even though he was taking over from an offensive line coach. But he then went on to the Cardinals, did great things, and is now, as I say, with the Jets. I just think it's a good coaching staff. The pressure is on them because obviously they're from New York. They play in the same division as the Patriots. But I think they could flirt with wild card spot. They're not going to win the division. We've made it blatantly clear who is. But this is still a damn good squad. And, ultimately, it's still got a very good defence. And they finally got their priorities right and locked up the best defensive lineman on their roster in Mo Wilkerson.
I think you need to look at it. It's a schedule type game as well. Browns, 49ers, Ravens, Rams, Colts, and they're playing the Bills and Dolphins, who we've said aren't very good. I tend to be with you and say that over maybe just 8-8. At a push 9-7. I don't think they make the playoffs at 9-7. I think that you probably need to be 10-6 for that. They don't win the division, as we said. We expected the Patriots to win 12 games, but they're the second best team in this division. And as you said, the offense has just got to keep up with the defense. Because I think the defense got a chance to be excellent this year, as it has been in years past. Fantasy stud on the Jets. Don't know who is it?
Fantasy stud. It's Brandon Marshall. I mean, he's still in that good teammate phase. He's his second season. He was a very, very outspoken advocate to make sure that Fitzpatrick came back in. I think if my future career earnings were dependent on Geno Smith, I'd be quite outspoken as well. Again, we know what his floor is. It's nearly 100 catches. It's double-digit touchdowns. It's 1,000, 1,200 yards maybe. They are going to try and run the ball, but Chan Gailey loves feeding his main receiver. And as long as Brandon Marshall is healthy, that's going to be him. So he should be in the wide receiver 1 conversation, wide receiver 1 to 12 at the end of the season. Don't worry about it.
Fantasy dud done.
This is one of the easiest ones of all 32 teams, based on scheme, based on fit, and based on basically what he's done so far in his NFL career, and that's Jace Amaro. He missed all of last season with an injury, so he's basically still trying to get up to speed with Chan Gailey's offense. Well, here's how you get up to speed with Chan Gailey's offense. If you're a tight end, keep looking. You're not in it. He doesn't pass to the tight end. He's not interested. He really couldn't care less. Jets tight end last season caught 8 passes all season. I know obviously they didn't have Amaro. Well, they did have tight ends. 8 passes, less than 1 point. That's 0.5 a game. They're not interested. Amaro, is probably going to play in the slot if he does play. Apparently, he's looked very good and has spent some time perfecting Brandon Marshall's catching technique. You ain't perfecting anything in one off season, pal. He did struggle with drops in his rookie season, although he did catch a high percentage of his balls. A lot of the drops were shockers. They really were. I just don't see the point. There's tight ends you can get very, very late in your drafts. He's not even worth the, what the heck flex flyer. Don't bother.
New York Jets over under 7.5 means I wouldn't say bullish, but we're confident that they're going to go over 8-9 wins. Basically, the division isn't very good. So we think they'll beat up on the 2 teams below them, and then obviously pick up a few wins along the way. Fantasy stud is Brandon Marshall. I believe is a Hall of Famer. That's open to debate because he is a bit of a head case, but you look at the stats, and I'm not sure that there's been many better in the 3 places he's been. Fantasy stud is Jason Morrow. Not necessarily due to his ability, although he can't catch. More due to the fact that Chan Gailey ain't going to use him because he's a tight end, and he doesn't like tight ends. That's the AFC East preview. Before we go, obviously, if you want to speak to us, Dutton's at ndutton13. I'm at Mainzy7, and together we are at waxing_lyrical. As we said before, DraftKings, sign up for it. The link is in our Twitter profile page. Sign up, register, and win a chance of £40,000 on Fantasy Premier League.
Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you, Dutton? And also, if you listen to us on iTunes, please drop us a comment and a rating. It all helps.
In fact, this is just off the cuff. If people start leaving us ratings, if we get enough people leaving us ratings, I will send at random someone who rates us. I'll send you an American football book that I own.
There we go, Dutton.
There's a prize. I haven't decided which one yet. But I will root one out and I'll send you that.
Fantastic, Dutton.
I'll even pay for the postage.
There we go, Dutton. Wow. If you know Dutton, that is a big offer. Dutton, any last
Stamps
thoughts?
are still 24 pence, aren't they?
I think so. We'll find out. Any last thoughts, Dutton?
No, but just remember, the long, dark summer days have nearly finished in terms of the NFL. It's nearly here. We made it, people.
This has been Waxing Lyrical. Get used to it.